Today's show is brought to you by hopsdirect.com. Grown in the esteemed Yakima Valley on the Pewterball family farm, hopsdirect.com offers the widest variety of hops available online at incredibly competitive pricing. It's simple. They grow hops, they sell hops, and they ship hops straight from their family-owned farm to your doorstep. Producing the highest quality hops is hopsdirect.com's passion, and they're proud to be an independent grower in the craft beer industry. Go to hopsdirect.com right now and get what you need to make your brew day better. That's hopsdirect.com. Today's show is brought to you by Imperial Yeast. You hear us gushing over Imperial Yeast all the time, and that's because their yeast performs for us in every batch that we brew. Imperial Yeast is adored by commercial breweries and home brewers alike. Their pitch-right pouches are jam-packed with over 200 billion fresh yeast cells, guaranteed to deliver flawless, fast fermentations every time. Imperial Yeast strains are grown by a team of pro brewers and home brewers who live to help other brewers learn more and ferment better. Join any recipe receiving tier of our Trub Club and get a free upgrade to premium Imperial Yeast with every recipe kit that ships out to you. Learn more at homebrewhappyhour.com/club and come brew with us.
Entertaining shows with content that spreads information and sparks discourse throughout the community. This is the Pearl Media Network.
Clothes transferring from brew buckets, rinsing your glass between every new beer, and splitting up your brew day. This is Homebrew Happy Hour, episode 315. Well, hello and welcome to another episode of the Homebrew Happy Hour. This is the show where we supply the answers to your homebrewing questions and discuss all things related to craft beer. If you have a question you'd like us to discuss on a future episode, go to homebrewhappyhour.com. Click on that submit a question link at the top of the page, or now you can call, leave us a voicemail, get yourself a $25 gift card to 325-305-6107. I am your host, Joshua Stubing, joined as always by my co-host. He is the director of operations at cmbecker.com, Mr. James Carlson. James, howdy doody, my friend.
Hey, how's it going?
It's good. I appreciate you taking the time to do this. Todd left us some wedding anniversary trip or something asinine, but I took over the helm of his desk. And I got to tell you, boring guy. I was going through all his stuff the other day and didn't find anything interesting. I found his diary. He had some interesting entries about me in it, but no, sitting back here, I've been trying to edit all those videos we recorded this whole week. It's been fun. It's been eventful, and it's been weird weather up here. Like y'all had a roller coaster yesterday and today, phenomenal. But it's like 30 in the morning and like 70 in the afternoon. And my allergies, I've never had bad allergies, and I have terrible allergies this week. I don't know if it's related, but anyways, you have got a water collecting and heating up because this is the week. We've talked about it on older episodes. We're doing the experiment for us. People have reached out to me when I talked about how we're going to do a overnight mash and like, Josh, y'all didn't invent that. This has been listen here, pal. If it's on this show, then it was our original idea. But it originated here. All 18 listeners understand that we invented overnight mashing. No, we're doing a Pilsner, and explain like the reason behind doing the most kind of straightforward basic beer for this overnight mash experiment we're doing.
Well, we kind of want to see if it creates any kind of weird off flavors. So there's no better recipe to do that with than just a Pilsner. You could even do that with a Kolsch, anything light. So we're just going with the 28 pounds of Pilsen malt and a little bit of Carapils. That's it. Single hop edition. Keep it a little light. And we brewed this before, so we know what it should taste like. And this will give us an idea of what, if there's any benefits or if any pros or cons in doing it this way. And the cons, of course, will be flavor. We want to make sure that it tastes the way it needs to taste. Because if it doesn't, then we've wasted the not only the malt, but the beer.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
It'll be interesting.
Are we going to do a dry yeast I'm not sticking around for the whole brew day tomorrow. We're going to film the bulk of it, I guess, talking about what we're doing this evening, and then in the morning taking the readings and all that. But are you going to pitch that dry Westhoffen or whatever it's called?
Yeah, I can't pronounce the name. Yeah, but it's a Pilsner German strain of Pilsner yeast, the same one that I used when we did the first batch of pressure pills.
Yeah, so we will know what to compare it to. Yeah, like you said, that's a big deal. Best case scenario, let's say this goes according to plan and it's perfect. Is this something you're actually interested in implementing? Because like when we did the pressure pills and pressure fermentation is kind of like you're doing that at least every other batch, if not the majority of your batches. You've been enjoying it.
Ever since I did my first pressure fermentation, everything I've done since has been on splending valve or under pressure.
Right, exactly. So I mean,
but now I did have something happen that hasn't happened in years.
I wasn't going to bring it up, man. Go ahead.
I had to dump a batch out, guys. I know it hurts. It was 16 gallons, a little under 16 gallons. It was one of those. You guys have had those days where nothing's going right. It was a Friday. Everybody was gone. The phones seem to always ring on Fridays. I don't quite understand it. Or I'd say they seem to ring when I'm brewing beer.
I was going to say,
but that's fine. That's what Todd pays me to do. And that particular day, everybody had left. I had a pretty uneventful day. I mean, the brew was going well. We had the boil. I did do something a little different, which I don't think I'm going to do again. I did a first wort hop edition, and it didn't produce the bittering. I knew better. I thought, well, that's going to take away from some of the bittering because you bring it in as it's at sparge temp, which is 170 degrees, and then it slowly builds up to a boil. And that can affect the bittering ability of the hops. And so I didn't add another addition until flame out. But here's where it gets interesting. So I've got my cooling coil. I usually generally connect it because it's a counterflow. And I hook it up 15 minutes before the end of the boil. So it gets good. Now it's good and rinse, but you want to make sure it's heated and sanitized. So I get to rocking and rolling on that. And you kind of get in the motions and you don't really, the way I brew now, I really don't. I do it one certain way and you kind of get overconfident on your process. So one thing I noticed, I was cooling it down, and right now is the best time because the tap water is really cold. So you really don't need any ice to get it down to chiller temp. So I've got the counterflow going and it's dropping, but I noticed it's just not dropping as fast as it normally does. And I thought, well, we've had some warm days. Maybe that's it. I checked the temperature of the tap water and it's still plenty cold. So I'm like, I just don't understand. The counterflow is just not efficient today. So, me, I know everything. So it's, I had a hair appointment at 2:00. And so I rushed downtown and got, 20 pounds of ice and thought, well, I'll knock this in the bud real quick. At least get it around 80 degrees where I can connect the chiller. And I've had good luck under pressure, pitch that yeast when it's, between 70, 75, this time 80. And that yeast kind of likes that little initial warm hit, and then it slowly starts to cool down. I had the chiller set at 65, I believe, or maybe it was 70. I don't remember. Anyway, it just stalled. I noticed the ice just liquefied in the chiller bucket, and it just stayed at 110 the whole time. And I'm like, what the heck is going on? And I thought, all right, I'm going to let it go. I went and got my hair cut, came back, and I just couldn't get it. So I just kept throwing ice on it until I got it down to about 82, but it just the ice kept disappearing. Long story short, I never turned my burner off. Guys, you can't cool the wort down if the burner's working.
I'm not laughing at you, I promise. But I
don't know how the heck I want to say something else. I missed that.
Yeah.
Well, I got it. Believe it or not, the burner going, and that chiller was actually pretty efficient because I was able to get it down to 80. Pumped it into the conical and I had the chiller going, so it was plenty cool. Hooked everything up and I noticed it started falling. Pitched my yeast and thought, well, it'll be all right. It'll be done. It definitely won't, whether it's good or bad, it's going to be fermented by the time I get done. Yeah. Get back to work Monday. I get back to work Monday and it is 40 degrees in the conical. Yep. And I'm like, I look at the chiller, and the chiller's showing 90 degrees on the temperature display. The thermocouple went out. The little thing that transducer that sends signals to the chiller to controller to turn the compressor on and off. So it's a good thing it wasn't super efficient, or it would have had, I would have had a frozen conical. But yeah,
it was a cluster. It happened to be a cluster. Yeah.
Turn the chiller off, let it room up to room temp for a couple of days, and it started falling. And I pulled the last hydrometer reading out, and I could smell it. Something wasn't quite right. Yeah, it was bad. Bad.
I remember you yesterday, or you dumped it yesterday, right?
Yeah.
Because
you
walked
floor drain.
This week has gone by. I can't believe it's already Thursday, dude. Yeah. It was yesterday, Wednesday, because you come in and you go, "Gotta dump it," and I was like, "No," and you go, "Trust me, gotta dump it."
Yeah, that was bad. It had some really bad off flavors, and the best I can tell is the lid. I traced it down to the gasket in the lid,
right,
and so everything was cold at the bottom, but it had gotten infected at the top. The warmer part, because the chiller cools down a little lower, and I would move, and it didn't matter. I mean, it was going to be a bad batch anyway, but I was trying to rouse the yeast at room temp and get it to continue to ferment out. But the more it fermented, the worse it tasted. So, yeah, when you see that, dump it. I took it outside and I burned it pretty good, which means I sanitized and cleaned the crap out of every piece. And we're going to do it again today.
We're going to do it again. That's right. Yeah. When you begrudgingly took the fermenter outside, I could hear taps. I could hear as it's just flowing out of the thing. I came back from lunch and it was sitting there just draining. I was like, "Oh, rest in peace, poor beer."
Yeah.
That's the second beer. Or pardon me. I know since I've known you, that's the third beer total that you've dumped, but I wasn't here for the Roggen beer. The one that we had at Homebrew Con that turned because of all the temperature fluctuation, all that crap.
Yeah, the lemon
drop. That's the first one that I remember. And I remember you carried that $5 into the bathroom, and the person in the stall next to you who was already in there taking a dump by the time you got in there thought that you were just going to town on that toilet, just blah 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 blah. No context, whatever.
They didn't know what the hell was going on. Then I left the stall door open, and people were walking by just, "Oh man, that sucks."
Yeah, exactly. People who were coming in were like, "Oh no." And
that was a pretty popular beer. We brought 2 kegs
popular
of it, and it was the first one to float. The first keg.
It was, and we didn't. And that was day one. We floated it, and so instead of cooking up the second one, because we're like, "Oh, we gotta make this last for at least 2 of these days." That was the first one we tried to connect day 2, and that's when we're like, "Oh no!" And it was Michael Ferguson and his buddy who came by the booth.
Ooh, you got to dump that.
He goes, "Hey, tell me what do you think's wrong with this?" And I remember, actually, Michael's more like, "Tell me what you think is wrong with this." And I said, "Oh no, he's put me to the test." And I was like, "Yeah." Even my dumb palate was like, "Oh, diacetyl. Yeah. Oh, James." But dumping beers.
Was that Rhode Island?
No, that one was
Portland.
Portland. Thank you. Yep, that one was Portland, where we had to dump it. Yeah. No.
Okay. Yeah. Because I know that we had to go. That was Rhode Island, because we rented the Nissan Frontier pickup, and we had to drive to the FedEx shipping house, unpack the crate, and load it into the.
That's the same show that the beer got that the lemon drop.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay, man, you know better than I do. Okay, then it had to. Yeah, you're right, because that is the only show that we did rent a car. That is the only one. I guess we. Oh, that's right. We used, but we still had our beer in their fridge, though.
Yeah, that was one of the few years where we had it tagged, and they would bring it in and bring it back out.
Okay, I got you. Yeah. Where other years we just did it we did our own logistical solutions for keeping our beer cold and serving it at the booth. Yeah,
I remember taking a picture, and we were serving. You and I were standing behind we had 3 taps, wasn't it?
4. We had 4 taps.
4?
Yeah.
Okay. And I looked out, and the line went as far as you could see, and then dog leg to the right.
Yeah,
the people waiting to get beer samples. It was a trip.
It was so cool. Yeah, the beer went where that beer. Joe had that Mosaic. Was an IPA. It was the one where I did the artwork. He wanted it to look very Grateful Dead. We had pins of it. And then I think, did we have a Kolsch? I couldn't tell, man. I'm telling you,
we
my
had
memory's
a
terrible.
ESB. We had a Kolsch.
I knew we had the
We
ESB.
had that IPA, and then we had the lemon drop Pilsner.
It was, yeah. Okay.
Yep.
It was fun times, man. HomebrewCon is always fun. We actually did. I submitted for us to give a talk again this year. They declined my talk last year. I made some changes. We're gonna see if they accept our changes this year. Don't spoil any fun, James. We're gonna see.
I'm not saying a word.
We're gonna get a gazillion 1-star reviews. Anyway, I hope they accept it, because one of my favorite things, we presented 2 years in a row for the online. I had a blast producing that for us.
Yeah. It was
You
a
and
fun
Todd
day.
got y'all good information conveyed, and like I said, the online live stream stuff, I love producing that. It's just fun being at the helm of all this controls and all this. It's the kind of thing I enjoy doing. But anyway, so yes, we're going to be doing the experiment today. We'll have that video up. Also, I talked about it last week. I did a kombucha Q&A and I published that video. It's at youtube.com/homebrew happy hour. And then I've had a few people text me directly to the hotline saying like, hey, I saw it on YouTube, but it's not in the feed, which made me realize it was just basically a conversation with me and Lorena. I might as well put it in the podcast feed. So today's episode obviously is going out today on everyone's feed. I'll put it out either Sunday or Monday, so that way there's some spacing between it. If you want to watch the entire Q&A, it's free for everyone. Like I said, youtube.com/homebrew happy hour, but it will be in your audio feed either Sunday or Monday. I'll do a coin flip if I can remember which day to put it in that feed, because it's not visual centric. Like, you don't have to watch the YouTube, but I didn't think about, I'll throw it in the podcast feed. But enough people reached out to me to go like, hey, it's not in my Apple podcast. Is there a reason? I was like, actually, no, there's not a good reason. So I'll get that on there. Like I said at the top of this, I did film with Todd 10 days ago, a bunch of stuff for this new event section we're going to have at keggconnection.com. Complete kits that'll get you set up for your wedding or whatever event, quinceañeras, whatever you're doing, and you're serving draft beverages at it. These kits are going to be, our kits already are set for that, but there are people, James will vouch for this, a lot of people call and they don't want the gazillion options. They just want to be told, I just want to serve my beer at the party. What do I need? Not like, well, you could choose between this kind of shank or this lean. Like, that's for the engineer types, which is a lot of our audience and a lot of our community. Yeah. And it's been great, but there is a huge subset of our society. Like, they go to Chick-fil-A because they know, I just want a number one, no customization. I just want that. I want that chicken sandwich. And so that's
simple is good.
Simple is good.
In and out.
There you go. In and out. I say Chick-fil-A, in and out. Same concept of just like, yeah, some people still customize it, but the majority of people just say number two and tell you what kind of beverage, and then boom, you go from there. So you could go to keggconnection.com, check out for that. And again, all the articles and stuff that we're doing is always going to be available at homebrewhappyhour.com. Other small talk. Oh yeah, obviously this month, you still got a couple weeks left of the month, but I started getting the kits together upstairs. Let me see if I can figure out how to put it on the screen. Boom, there it is, an amber ale. It's a Fat Tire clone that we are shipping out to recipe-receiving members of our Trub Club. You can go to patreon.com/homebrew happy hour, join one of those tiers, come brew with us. This month it's shipping out with Imperial House. We love that strain. More importantly, we love Imperial. Good people at Imperial. I reached out because I was concerned the yeast hadn't arrived yet at the time I sent the email, and I was like, oh, did our FedEx lose it, this and that? And they held my hand through it. They said, shut up, you idiot. It's 2 days, and we shipped it Tuesday, so that's 2 days. And then FedEx showed up like 8 minutes later. And then I had to write the tail between my legs email. You were right. It did come today. Thank you. So we're all set to go. The hops, people who are receiving it this month will notice a ton of swag from our friends at hopsdirect.com as well. They got coasters, they've got stickers, they've got pins. All of that is in your recipe kit. When you join for your first month as well, you do get a premium welcome pack. So that's going to be like a shirt. It's going to be stickers, keg labels. We throw a lot of stuff at y'all when you join the Trub Club because we appreciate it. And again, we appreciate all our sponsors. Muntins just reached out and said that their initial shipment's coming soon. So everything's coming together, man. It's really cool. Being up there making the recipes is, you would think, because I'm so adverse to manual labor, it would be one of my least favorite things to do. But I actually like it. It's very relaxing. That like just measuring it out and I had help from the Tech Connection crew as well, so that helped too. They come up there and help me. Todd got me the new weed scale or cannabis scale that we talked about on last week or 2 weeks ago. That came in. That made measuring hops so easy. I'm going to reach out to some cartels, see if they need some freelance help. But anyway, besides all that, let me put it back on the string real quick. Boom, there it is. The Amber Ale. Again, that's at patreon.com/homebrew happy hour. Before I get into the questions, James, the Fat Tire, we're going to have to start calling this the Fat Tire original recipe. I think if the rumors that we heard are true, that they are actually replacing Fat Tire with a pale wheat version instead of the
I think that's a mistake.
I assuming that the rumor, like Good Beer Hunting broke the story, which is a great blog. They broke the story, and then I think I read it first though in Paste magazine, and
wow,
yeah, and they're talking about the rumors. I mean, that obviously the cans and the artwork were completely different. We know that, like, that was in the hands of distributors. New Belgium, for whatever reason, decided they needed a rebranding. But the allegations are not just a rebranding. They're doing a whole reformulation of the beer. And they're going to be changing it allegedly to a Belgian pale wheat. Which
you would think they learned lessons from New Coke. Is
that what happened with? I don't remember New Coke.
Yeah. You weren't born yet, but they did a huge marketing campaign. New Coke, new label on the new emblem or logo on the can, and it was a complete flop. It flopped so bad that they reinstated the old recipe like a month after that.
What was their thought process?
Maybe even less than that. Who knows? I think they were trying at that time. That was deep into the Cola Wars, and I'm telling you, it tasted like a Pepsi.
So they were trying to compete with Pepsi by tasting like Pepsi.
Yeah, which is idiotic. I think that marketing campaign crew all got fired over that deal.
Yeah.
It was a huge deal. You guys don't know anything about it, go Google it. It's interesting. Or go on YouTube, and I think there's a pretty good documentary about that. That
I guess
Fat Tire is an icon.
Yes,
I mean it is one of the beers that convinced me to brew, other than Shinerbach. I can't imagine that they would discontinue that recipe.
Well, it's a gateway. It's a gateway beer into craft
it's like
beer.
a Sierra Nevada Pale Ale. It'd be like going in and changing that, and it's not going to work. I'm sorry, guys. I'm a big fan of Fat Tire
and New Belgium.
Don't do this.
Yeah.
And it's going to be sad. I'll brew the clone. At least I'll have that.
I would say at least we'll have that if this rumors are true. I say rumors. We know the rebranding's happening. If the reformulation happens, then maybe we'll make a killing. Start selling these recipe kits. So
I hope that's just a rumor. Maybe you can get a hold of Matt. Is he still there?
Matt Meadows is still the director of field quality. Yeah, someone sent me the article and goes, "This would have been perfect for Booze News Weekly if you didn't quit that show, Josh." Listen, guys, it took a lot of time. It didn't get traction. The download numbers were just awful. And I'm not just talking about YouTube, the audio one. Like I sat down with Todd. I was like, dude, I like doing the show, but look, it's a 18th of what the other one gets. People are actively skipping it when they on their subscriptions, like on their Apple Podcast, Spotify, all those, they're actively not consuming this show. Do we want to keep doing it? He goes, I don't pay you to have fun. All right. So it sounded more like, I don't pay you to have fun. And I said, okay, boss, I won't do the show anymore. But yeah, when we get news like that, we'll bring it on this show going forward. But anyways, yes, go brew with us. Go to patreon.com/homebrew happy hour. Come brew with us. You get premium ingredients, premium yeast, malt, premium hops. It's all premium. We are ecstatic at what 2023 has for us with our Trub Club. So when you join, just know we greatly appreciate you. So I don't have any listener feedback, but I've got 3 questions. Our first one's a voicemail. It's our buddy Joel from Montana.
Hey guys, Joel in Montana, and putting through my fermentation equipment, and I just realized I have a lot of buckets, and I would really like to use them, but I'm kind of happy with this. Been doing while fermenting in a keg, so I was just wondering, is it possible to modify or MacGyver the lid to my bucket so that I can do a pressure transfer? Maybe drop some gas dip tubes in there and a floating dip tube? Not sure, but I would love to be able to do that instead of opening up the lid and siphoning. So if you have any ideas, that'd be great. Also, Joshua, your eyebrows look great, brother. Nice job grooming those. You're very videogenic. All right, have a good one.
Joe, I will say this: it wasn't my playback this time. It was his voicemail. I played it back on multiple devices. Last week, I was like, oh my God, what's going on? People call us from stable phone connections. But anyway, my eyebrows do look good. Thanks, Joel. I get so self-conscious on the internet, man. James, you've disconnected yourself from feedback, like from Instagram and all that. I get it all in my inbox or in the DMs on Instagram or the comments. When I brought up my eyebrows, some people got brutal. One person they didn't use the plural. They go, "You mean eyebrow?" And I go, yeah. Anyway, pressure transferring, or rather closed transferring, is the ideal choice for most people who are getting serious about their brewing. One of the biggest criticisms my pop and I ever had when I'd post to our Instagram, oh, transfer day, was we opened up the lid. I had the auto siphon holding. It's wide open going into a carboy or something that's also basically wide open besides the tubing. People be like, that's so gross. You're opening yourself up to infection. And they're not necessarily wrong. We'd purge the carboy and everything was sanitized, but they're not wrong. Closed transferring helps the sanitary conditions, right? We can agree on that. Now with buckets, is there some, like, what feedback would you give Joel, or what tips would you give him for taking a standard brew bucket that probably has a grommet for the airlock and turning it into a vessel that can handle a minuscule amount of pressure enough to take it from there and going into a keg or whatever he's going to be transferring to, a secondary vessel or a keg?
Oh, yeah. Floating dip tube's a great idea. What you want to do is just go into, and I think Keg Connection has these too, but you want to get bulkhead fittings and just drill holes in the lid. And then you'll have one for the floating dip tube, and then you'll have another one for the gas. But I want to stress this. This is very, very important, especially if you're using a glass carboy and you're using one of those red lids with the tubes sticking out.
Or the orange ones. Yeah. I know
the orange
the cappers.
Ones, yeah.
Yep.
You cannot use, don't use over 1 PSI. You might be able to get away with a couple on the plastic because it's going to expand just a little bit, but you don't want the lead coming off and hitting you in the head. You got to be very careful with pressures and vessels that weren't really designed for pressurizing. We do enough. I know Todd uses just enough gas to get it moving. Sometimes that's all you need, and then the siphon will kick in. But I know I've got that big conical from Blinkman, and I had mentioned to John that I was using pressure to move it, and his eyes kind of doubled in size and says, do not do that.
Yeah, this is the John Blinkman for people who didn't catch
owner
that.
of Blinkman Engineering. He said it's not designed for those kind of pressures. And when he told me square inch and PSI per square inch and how big the lid is, I was like, ooh, yeah, probably not a good idea. So that being said, yes, you can. You'll need bulkhead fittings, one for the gas and one for the liquid. Floating dip tube will get it clear of the trub or the krausen at the top. and that'll get you a little cleaner transfer. But be very, very, very careful on pressures. Do not, and you need to monitor it. Don't set it and leave it, because sometimes regulators can lose or they'll read wrong.
Right.
And you want just enough pressure to get it moving and no more, because you do not want an accident. I mean, we had a customer contact us. He had a conical.
Oh yeah. Recently that guy. Oh
yeah. And he was like, I need to know how to hook this up to do a pressure transfer. And it had bell top lid fasteners. So immediately looking at that, I know that on Spike, the pressure fermenters, they have that's familiar with turbochargers or diesel trucks. There's a special type of clamp, high pressure stainless steel clamp, and it will hold pressure fairly well. That's what Spike uses on their conical, and a lot of the pressure fermenters, that's the kind of clamp they use. This didn't have that. These had just little formed wire clamps. Y'all have seen them. They just kind of clamp and snap the lid in place. So not designed for any kind of pressure whatsoever. So Josh and I were like, immediately, don't do this. You know, you've got to be careful, be smart. Don't pressurize something that wasn't designed to be pressurized.
Yeah, you served the role of our legal department that day. You're like, Josh, make sure he knows that we are very serious about him not doing that, and make sure like our stance is don't do it. Make sure you say that 10 or 20 times. So so when it explodes, we have no culpability. We are out of that.
Yeah, and I've been guilty of that too, but I will say this: it was about a pound, and I was watching it the whole way. And I've had regulators in the past that all of a sudden they'll start creeping, and that's the biggest worry. Is a lot of the older regulators will creep, so they may not creep if they're set to run at 12 psi, and that's pretty much where they've been at their whole life. And you try to use that at a lower psi, sometimes they can creep up a little bit. You don't want to. I'm nervous at 10 psi with a pressurized, designed fermenter. I can't imagine what that would be like with something that wasn't designed to be. It would be just a ticking time bomb.
It is, everyone, unless you're brand new to the show, and Todd and James have known me for a while and known this about me, pressure just terrifies me in general. Joel, I'd almost say those all-rounders from Firmzilla, More Beer, I believe, is the actual, aren't they the actual manufacturers of them, or Kegland is, pardon me. But I think,
you're talking the ones that we got, the clear ones.
Yeah. And if you don't necessarily need the 15.9, they are very affordable for what they are. And they're rated for high amounts of pressure. I mean, relatively high for what we're like. What are they rated to? Like 50, 40? I mean, they're high to where
think of it this way. You know what it looks like? To me, it looks like a great big, huge 3-liter Coke bottle.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
And the lids are the same way. And I don't know. Yeah, I'm sure everybody's done it. Taken a 3-liter bottle of Coke or Pepsi or Dr. Pepper and shook it up. Try to push the sides.
How firm it gets. Yeah.
Guarantee you it's more than 10 psi.
Absolutely it is. Yeah.
And I had it. This is another funny story. One of the first times that I did pressure fermentation, I wasn't looking at the arrow on the splending valve. You remember that, Josh?
Yes, I do. Yeah.
It was that first batch of pills.
Yeah, it was your very first one. Yeah.
So I calibrated the splending valve to pressure bleed off at 10 psi, which is what I normally do. But I had it backwards. So it was holding everything. And when I went in that day, I went to go check it. Man, it looked, you could have, it sounded like a drum head when you thumped it. I don't know how much pressure was on it, but it took a while to get the pressure out of it. So they're overbuilt. And just seeing that, I'm like, man, they've got their stuff together on it.
Right. Well, probably because for the liability behind it, they have to. And,
absolutely.
And all over the device, it talks about how it's on you to test it. Is it annually or every other? Like, do it, you know what I mean? And how do not use pressure on this after it's 4 years? It's not,
it's got a date code.
It has a date code and everything. They're covering their butts. That's not saying it will fail that. They're just covering their butts because they don't want their device blowing up on someone and being the recipient of a lawsuit because,
and they would be.
Of course. Everyone's too happy.
Especially if it's not the individual, the insurance, if they have to pay anything out for like drywall damage or medical, they're going to go after them. So that's one thing. It's very, very, very important to know your equipment, know that you're going to have to be very, very cautious with if you're going to be doing anything like that.
I just realized I always give Todd, after we're done recording, crap for how much he shakes this desk. I'm barely touching it. It's like I'm in an earthquake. YouTube.
Well, it's an elevated desk.
It is. I just realized like I gotta give Todd more grace. I'm just barely putting my weight on it, and then I'm looking at the screen like, why am I in an earthquake? Anyways, but
we kind of rambled on that, but we just wanted to make sure
Todd's not here to rein me in. Wrapping up Joel's question though, bulkhead fitting. The floating dip tube for the liquid is the perfect idea. Floating dip tubes have been a game changer for me. Again, guys, I know I'm late to the party, but also I invented floating dip tubes in the keg and in fermentation vessels. That was obviously my idea if you're new to the show. But they've been game changer because like going from either the Fermenter King, the Anvil that I got from Anvil, or the Firmzilla that I got from Kegland, both of those with the floating dip tube, dude, it's incredible. And I think also being clear vessels, at least for the transferring part, I appreciate that so much, being able to just see it. But the bulkhead fittings, if you're doing that transfer, like you said, on a DIY configuration, just be there for the whole thing. Because like James said, regulators can creep, period. They can. You
definitely want to watch over it,
Just be careful. And I would say that with any time. There's no real reason to set and forget anything on a brew day or a transfer day. You should, every time we've ever turned our batch is on a brew day, like that's when the boil overs happen. Or that's when, like things always happen when we go, ooh, we can set and forget. No, we need to be present. But Joel, thank you so much for submitting that question. A great time to remind y'all, if and when you do submit a question to us through our hotline, the voicemail specifically at 325-305-6107, you get a $25 gift card to kegconnection.com, courtesy of the vacationing Todd Burns. When you send us a text message or an email, you still get a $15 gift card, which I think is pretty stinking good. Which our second question is a text. It's our buddy Ross, and he wrote, short and sweet question: do you rinse your glass every time you get a different beer? Debating on installing a proper glass rinser. And then he wrote RDWHHB situation, which is relax, don't worry, have a homebrew. Wondering if that's just overthinking it. I will say, Ross, for me personally, since he asked, and then we'll kind of go deeper into this, I don't, because I'm lazy. I don't rinse. I was
going to say, do you want me to lie or tell the truth?
No, here it's two part. When I'm at Todd's, especially when he's gone, that keg of Kolsch is basically tapped. I just drink Kolsch all night. I don't need to rinse it because it's the same style. I know he's talking about different beer as in literally a different style. I have before, yes. If I like the breakfast stout, I drink from it first, and then I want to go to a Kolsch, I rinse. I do rinse because I don't want the residual affecting my next pour, and that's the whole reason I think behind rinsing in general, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And to be fair, if I had one of those rinsers that's built into the drip tray right next, I would do it every time I'd get a new beer. It just helps with foam, But if I have your stout on tap, that's the only thing I have on tap. It's
way
so good, but you can't have a whole lot of it because it's like high octane. But if I had a Kolsch next to it, yeah, definitely I would rinse it out or get another glass.
Yeah. If I forgot that they make those in the drip tray. When I did an Amazon search, it was all for in the sink. If you do the one at the drip tray, obviously you have to have running water to it somehow. Do you think
a drain,
and a drain, and a proper drain, exactly? Are the installs on that to you? Like, let's say, because you are again the resident MacGyver. If it was, they don't cost a ton. Is it worth the effort, or is it worth the effort for you to try to install one, you think? I mean,
if you've got one on a wet wall, it's pretty simple. You just have to find the cold water side. Don't hook hot water to a rinser. You don't want to do that. And then get you a drain. I know the way that my setup is, it's passing through. I have the kegerator in the mudroom, and the shanks are installed in the wall. So they pass through the wall into a mirror. and I've got enough room right there to mount a drip tray. But the mud room is concrete. The rest of the house is pier and beam. It's an old house out in the country. And so I could technically do that, but I'd have to drill into the concrete enough to get into that wall or pass it through the attic, go up the wall from the kitchen, and then go drop it down in the attic into that wall. And then I would have service there and then tap. I would probably have to pull out enough drywall to drill holes through the studs and just have it dump with a P-trap outside. That's the way I would do mine. But
that sounds like so much work.
Yeah.
Again, I cannot reiterate enough how lazy I am. No, when I can just walk over to the sink. And again, though, I'm very transparent, guys. I'm only doing this when the styles are so in contrast to each other that I don't want my palate confused. Because I know the trend, especially on Reddit, is like all these. What do y'all think about my blueberry Kolsch? What do you think about that? They're not Kolsch's, first off. But anyway, I know everyone's trying to mix and match and do all that. I don't want the coffee Kolsch. I don't want that. If I'm drinking the Kolsch, I want just the Kolsch experience. That's why I'm rinsing it. But between every pour, I don't know. I mean, you go to a bar, they are serving every beer you order in a different glass. I don't know if that's some hygienic liability.
Yeah, I think that's just proper. It's hygienic and it's etiquette, and that's the way I would do it if I had a brewery and a tap room.
Oh, totally. I would too, because I'd also have a dishwasher hired, right? To do that. It wouldn't be me personally back there. I know.
But the bartender behind the bar, he's got a scrubber. I know when I was managing restaurants, we had a 3-tier sink, and it had soapy water, rinse water, and final rinse water. So they had scrubber or brushes in the soapy water, and then the bartender would scrub the glass, rinse the glass, and do a final rinse, and then set it on a dry table. So it just takes just a few seconds, and it would be set. And then waitresses would come in and pull those glasses for pours. It worked well.
I tell you what, I did actually enjoy when we went to the Brew, which rumor alert, we might be going back to the Brew as a group this year. But we when we went in 2018. I was at the serving booth, just chit chatting with the people who spoke English around it, and they had one of those. Todd ended up getting one, and his failed after a gazillion uses. But it was the kind that it goes in. It's a portable, for lack of a better word, that you put in the sink. One side is the soapy brush that you like kind of, and then the other side is you set it down, and it initiates this cleaning thing, or the rinse part. Where you rinse.
It had an internal jet and then external jets with brushes for both the inside and outside.
Oh, so cool. But then Todd was like, he got one from the manufacturer or something, and I was like, oh, we all got to get these. He goes, yeah, they're like $280, or I forgot what. Like they were stupid expensive.
It wasn't that the price of the unit, because the manufacturer gave us a really good deal, and we were going to import them in and try to sell them through C. Becker. The problem is they were big. The boxes were big, so any kind of volume we'd have to order to get a good price, we had to ship. So the shipping actually cost more than the units. And at the end of the day, we did the math, and there just wasn't. By the time you add margin to that, there was no market for it.
It was a German company, wasn't it?
Yeah, Actually, they weren't in Germany. They were somewhere in Europe. I don't remember.
Okay. I don't know why I thought it wasn't the Delphi or It wasn't it was the one that started with a D, wasn't it? Or was that the other one? There was like 2 or 3 I remember of manufacturers.
They were really nice. I want to say they were out of Holland, but it would have been, if we would have bought those, it would have been 10 pallets of those. We'd probably still have 9 pallets upstairs.
Oh, easily. Oh, yeah. No, they're not flying off the shelf. No, definitely not. But and can you imagine trying to get them over with today's shipping rates? I was just telling someone. I was telling someone, a customer had called because they ordered, I don't know, it ended up being like 2.5 pounds worth of stuff. So not a ton, but it was in had to go out in like a 10 by 10 by 10 box or something. Or maybe it's 9 by 9.
Yeah. I knew a guy, he ordered brewery equipment when the shipping containers all went back then.
Yeah.
The shipping container prices was like $8,000 for a full.
Yeah.
which at that time we thought was almost double what people are normally used to paying.
Yeah. And now
by the time they got the brewing equipment done and he was ready to bring the equipment over, it's $30,000.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Well, I was
they had to get another loan out to get their equipment.
Yeah. The guy called. He's like, $9.95 seems excessive for shipping. And I go, I tell you what, friend, I will charge you what it cost us to ship to you if you're okay with that. Kind of as a joke, because it's like, dude, it cost us $18 to ship that to you. $9.95 didn't cover the shipping at all. Yeah. But I agree, friend. If you don't want to pay the flat rate on kegconnection.com, I'll give you an exact quote, but you have to agree to pay it. Anyways, shipping's all that. But back to Ross. At the end of the day, this is one of those, hey, y'all give us feedback. What do you do? How do you implement rinsing where it's convenient, not just, Josh, get up off your butt and go to the sink? No. If I'm going to rinse, I want it more convenient. Or, is this a relaxed, don't worry, have a homebrew kind of situation? For me and James, I think it is. Where
if I'm drinking the same thing, I don't really do that. Unless it's something that has, I've a super, let me just say nicely, a not so bright beer. You can get kind of yeasties and hop particles and all of that. Then you probably shouldn't be drinking that. That's what we call being impatient. But then you would want to rinse that. But if you're drinking the same thing and not mixing, then I don't.
Absolutely. So Ross, thank you for submitting that question. A final reminder, if and when you leave us a text message at 325-305-6107 or an email through the submit a question link at the top of homebrewhappyhour.com, you get a $15 gift card to kegconnection.com, or you can be like our final question. Our buddy Jared from New Jersey left us a voicemail and got himself a $25 gift card to kegconnection.com. And Jared wrote, it's the voicemail. Let me play that.
There you go.
Hi, gentlemen. This is Jared from New Jersey. Joshua, if you're screening the calls, you are great. Thank you all for your show. Really been enjoying it. I have a question that maybe you folks can help me out with. I had my first child born this year and another's on the way, and I've been looking for ways to potentially split up my brew day now that it's a little harder to do a full brew day all at once. And I was considering doing the mash one day and then the boil and pitching the yeast the second day. What I would do, I think, is to do a mash as normal and then rack off the sweet wort into a bucket and cover it and put that into my kegerator, let it chill overnight, and then go ahead and throw it back in my kettle the next day and bring it up into a boil and proceed as normal. I was wondering if there were any special considerations that I should be thinking through, any recommendations or words of warning. Is it simply that easy? Is there a limit to how long I could keep that chilled in the kegerator if I can't get to it, let's say, for a week? Thank you very much. Appreciate your help. And my callback number, if I can get any of Todd's money.
Wait up, let me stop it there. Yeah, you did get some of Todd's money, but not everyone in the world needs to know your number. Not every, Todd swears that he doesn't mind giving everyone his number. That's just uncomfortable for me. He's got to be getting some inappropriate texts.
He gave it out.
He frequently does. He's like,
it's on the website.
I know.
Mine is on the website too.
Your cell phone number is?
Mm-hmm.
No, y'all are nuts. And that's the kind of photos y'all are getting. Hey, no, I haven't. I
wish.
Yeah, right. No. You're like, any positive attention would be great. This is kind of relevant to what we're doing. What he's talking about is different though, because what we're doing, our overnight mash, is a literal. When we shut it down, we're not separating the wort out of that mash. We are our mash process is going to be from when we close the doors till we get back here and heat it up. He's talking about doing what a ton of our listeners down under in Australia. This is like all the rage down there. From my perception, guys down under don't write the 1-star review yet, but a lot of them use those like the cubes. They call them
they're like water jugs,
basically water jugs that they no chill is the process they're doing. No chill before they use the bots to then, I guess, go to the boil at some point, or is that pardon me, that would be post boil. What that is, the bots is the cube is used after the boil, then they use that to get it down to fermentation pitching temps, right? I mean,
I would think so. Yeah,
I would think so too. What he's talking about,
that would
be
the last part of it.
He's
But what he's talking about
mash.
is go ahead and getting the wort, mashing to get the wort, collect the wort, put it in his kegerator overnight, and then go back and boil it, do the hops, cool it down, pitch yeast, and then put it in the fermenter.
If it's completely sanitary and airlocked, is that like the only words of wisdom I can offer? Because it just sounds terrible to me. It just sounds like a disaster potentially waiting to happen.
Well, depending on if you do a sparge at 170, you're mashing between 148 and 152. Some people mash a little higher, depending on what beer you're brewing. So you're looking at temperatures between 150 and 100 and as high as 170, probably not 170. But the only thing about that concerns me is you're in that danger zone, is what we used to call that in the bacteria range. I know you get it and you put it in a cold environment, but that's still warm inside that fermenter. So sanitation is absolutely crucial, because what can happen is that can create, the bacteria can try to infect that wort. And they say, well, James, I'm going to boil it. I'm going to boil that off. Well, you're not going to boil off the effects of that. So it's like people saying, well, it's old, I'm just going to boil it and it'll be good. And like, no, when food goes bad, it spoils. The bacteria create the toxins. You can't boil the toxins away, just the bacteria. And so the same thing with off flavors and anything that might create a bad flavor or gas or anything that you don't want is going to stay in there, whether you boil it or not. So you just be real careful about sanitation. And I don't know if I would go so far as to cool it down before I get it cold as quick as possible before you put it in the kegerator, which would, then you're not saving any time. Then you'd just be better off to schedule time where you can do the whole thing all at once and be done with it. So if you do have it in a sanitized container and you've got it cold and it's in your kegerator, if it's sealed, that's going to be your best indicator.
Right.
If it's a plastic bucket, it's like the jarred jalapenos or anything. It's got that dimple top on the lid. Well, that's there to see if it's stuck down, because the way they produce those, there's actually a vacuum inside that when they seal the vegetables or whatever's in there, whether it be peanut butter, jam, whatever. Same thing can be said with a brew bucket with no vent. Is put that in there, make sure I guess you could even purge it with CO2 if you wanted to before you seal the lid. But if there's any kind of pressure, then you need to examine it, look at it. I would go so far as to take a little taste of it and see if you can detect anything that's off, and then go ahead and well, you know what? Try it. Try doing it one time and see how it turns out. And do it with something that you brewed a lot of, so you have a flavor note for what it's supposed to taste like. That's what we're going to be doing today. And we're going to do a video on it. It won't be a super long video, but it'll be enough to where you kind of get the gist of what we're trying to achieve with overnight mashing.
Well, in between the concept he's talking about or the overnight mashing experiment we're going to do you feel more comfortable as James Carlson, the brewer, doing the overnight mash because of what is less likely to happen as a do you know what I'm saying? Like, so both of them, you don't like either concept, right?
Yeah, I don't like the fact that what we're going to do is, when we talked about this on another episode. So I've got the Brautag going right now. It's at temp. Just got to go upstairs and get the grain. We're going to do a simple grain bill. We're talking 28 pounds of Pilsen malt and a pound and a half of Carapils. That's it. And then I'm going to use some German tradition hops, 4 ounces, 1 hop addition. That's for tomorrow. So it doesn't really matter for the test. We're wanting something that this is my base Pilsen recipe. It's my no fail. People that don't like the more exotic brews tend to like this more.
Absolutely. Yep.
It's simple.
Crowd pleaser.
It's light. It's delicate. If there's anything wrong with it, you know it immediately.
Yep.
So this is the reason why we're going to do it with this type of grain bill. I would never do it with a huge grain bill or a stout or anything that's real heavy. We want to find out if you can do this. Is it going to create any off flavors? Me personally, I think it will.
Yeah.
But we're going to find out.
You told me that. You told me it. But if it does go forward and it does go good, is this a style you're going to probably implement? Or are you just like, no, because you made the time to brew? Like, you're not needing you're not needing this.
Yeah. I don't need to split it up. I feel more confident and I feel better knowing that I can get it all done. I can do it in 5 hours. I can brew anywhere from 15 to 19 gallons of beer in 5 hours and leave.
Yeah.
So I know that it's chilled. The biggest thing for me when I first started brewing beer is the one thing that I read, and everything that I read about homebrewing was you've got to chill that wort down as quick as possible, get it out of that danger zone where bacteria like to feed, because we're talking sugar water. They love that. So you can never get one. People will disagree with me this, but it's not possible to get it sterile. You know what I mean?
Gotcha.
And I'm talking about surgically sterile.
Yes.
It is possible. And what we do every day is we get it clean enough to where we give the yeast the fighting chance against bacteria. It's like that neighbor's green, thick yard. He didn't have any weeds in that yard because the grass is so healthy, the weeds don't have a fighting chance.
Right.
So that analogy is the best thing with yeast. If you've got a healthy environment for yeast and it's where they want to be, the bacteria, there's no room for them in it. So that's my only concern. I know it's going to be setting overnight. It's going to generate some sugars overnight. And those sugars are going to be sitting there at room temp. You know, it's 140
for him, or you
5
talking about
degrees to 145 is that range.
Yeah, our
So
experiment.
that's
Yeah. I mean, you're talking about our experiment, right? Because for him, it'll be in the fridge. Does the colder environment help him at all?
Well, that's what I mean. Is
it.
He's going to have warm wort that he's going to put in a bucket and he's going to put in the kegerator, and it's going to take several hours for that wort to cool down. So it's going to stay warm in that bucket.
A lot can happen.
Warm sugar walker, and if it's not super clean, and there happens to be some bacteria in there, they're going to go to town, and it's going to be it's going to be an incubator.
He's going to know, though. He's going to know the next day before he gets to boil or before he puts it in the kettle. And that's when you would taste it and go like, hey, make sure. Because like you said, it's not like, a little piece of mold on my bread I'll just cut off. It is going to change the entire integrity of that wort. Like, it's not a scoop it out and don't worry about it. But hey, maybe they'll make your favorite sour. And we're catastrophizing only for what we're worried about. Not that we think that is what's going to happen. You're just saying, that is what could happen. Because I guarantee you a lot of people are going to write in, go, you guys have no idea what you're talking about. I do this every week.
But that's true. We have no idea. That's why we're doing this. We just don't know. I'm very pessimistic on this process. But, hey, I didn't know anything about pressure fermentation. And Jonathan showed that it's definitely something that is worth doing, and that's all I do now.
If overnight mash works, I'm going to be so snobby for people in the future being like, oh, overnight mashing? Yeah, we do it all the time. I'm the encyclopedia of pressure fermentation and overnight mashing now. Yeah. I've gotten feedback from people who say sometimes they act like they know everything. Okay, you haven't been around long enough if you think we act like we know anything. Are you kidding me?
I let y'all know what works for me, but that may not work for y'all.
Yeah, but this is the kind of question though I love, because I want voicemail feedbacks, friend, on what y'all think about doing the method Jared's talking about. Well, first off, Jared's learning the hard way. Kids ruin everything. But besides, no, congrats on the kids, Jared. I love children. Yeah, my wife made me get a vasectomy, and I'm very bitter. That's a whole thing for a therapist probably. But I love children. When they get older, incorporating them into the brew day is going to be a blast for you. But yeah, working around the young kids is something every adult has had to do, or every parent rather has ever had to do since the history of man. Like, I don't train jujitsu as much because kids require time. Ugh. So trying to shorten your brew day or make it more efficient is a natural byproduct or a natural desire of people who when your situation changes. But like you said, like I'm with James in the try it and let it and then see if it works for you. God bless you. Keep doing it that exact same way every time if it keeps working. But I know, like I said, we have a lot of people from Australia that listen to the show, and I'm pretty confident this is a very popular type of brew process. Also, the no chill part between actual mash, sparge, and then before boil, or post boil to then before pitching the yeast. And I'd love to hear your feedback on all the above, friends, is what I'm getting
or
at.
you know what, when he's collecting the wort, one of the things to do might be the simplest thing is get a chiller coil ready, pump the wort through that into some ice water, so it's chilling as it's going into the collection bucket.
That's
and then that way
idea.
it's moving cold. And I think it'd be perfectly fine that way.
That's a great idea. And that wouldn't be that hard to implement, assuming you have the coil.
Yeah, just a little 5-gallon bucket and one of our K-Connection stainless steel chiller coils.
Yeah.
And just have the inlet coming out from the mash tun, the outlet going into the bucket.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, when it hits the bucket, it's going to be cold.
That's a great idea. Now,
and so you get it out of that danger zone, and it should be perfectly fine that way. It's just the fact that it's going to sit there hot until it cools down in the kegerator.
Right. No,
but
exactly.
If it's cold when it's in the bucket, I think have a better chance of it not getting possibly infected.
Right. Exactly. That's interesting. Yeah. But yeah, leave us your feedback, 325-305-6107 if you want yourself a $25 gift card. Text that same number or go to homebrewhappyhour.com and click on that submit a question link at the top of the page. Mr. Carlson, that's all I've got for us this week. I'm sorry for taking way more of your time than I thought I would. I've been shortening the last few episodes to 3 questions, and then they go longer. So anyway, I appreciate your time, my friend. I'm here till tomorrow. We're going to get that stuff filmed, and just a lot going on at homebrewhappyhour.com. So I'm excited about that. Catch you soon,
Me
my
too.
friend. I'll catch you soon.
See you.
All right. Bye. And that will do it for this episode of the Homebrew Happy Hour. If you have a question you'd like us to discuss on a future episode, go to homebrewhappyhour.com and click on that submit a question link at the top of the page. Or now you can call, leave a voicemail, be our best friend at 325-305-6107. For the best hops available online, give our friends at hopsdirect.com a visit and pick up what you need for your next brew day. Also get a free pack of Imperial yeast along with premium recipes from us when you join the Trub Club. Go to patreon.com/homebrew happy hour and come brew with us. On behalf of Todd Burns, James Carlson, and the Pearl Media Network, I'm Joshua Stubing. Thanks for listening.